Welcome to Epg Pathshala. I am Ujasvi Bhalla, Research Scholar at Jawaharlal Nehru University, and I am presenting on behalf of Professor Epg Lin. The module we will be covering now is titled Minimalism 3, the Organization of Grammar and Other Matters. This is module number 13 of the paper Advanced Syntax. Let us begin. So in this module, we will be covering the structure of the clause in early minimalism, case checking in spec head configuration, the crossing movement of subject and object, the new organization of grammar, and S-structure conditions and how to get about them. So let us start talking about the structure of the clause in early minimalism. In earlier models of minimalism, precisely module 12 and 13, it was stated that tense node has two types of features. First, tense features, which could be plus minus past. Second, agreement features, which could be like first person, second person, third person, singular or plural, masculine or feminine. So tense node came to be referred to as inflection node. Tense phrase TP came to be referred to as inflection phrase IP. In his 1992 paper, Chomsky broke this head into two distinct heads, T and AGR, and he postulated that AGR head is generated higher than the T head. What was the evidence for this particular ordering? Evidence for this AGR being generated higher than T came from languages that mark tense and agreement distinctly on the verb. In such languages, the sequence which we got was verb, tense, agreement. Let us see an example from Kannada language. The data is on your screen. Avan bar uttanu. Pardon my pronunciation. He, come, present, third person, singular, masculine. In the verbal part, you can see that you have the verb, then the suffix for tense, and then the suffix for person, number, and gender agreement. So if a verb is going to pick up inflection sequentially, AGR head has to be higher than the T head to get the correct order. You can see the structure for this on your screen, where we have a T layer over your VP layer and an AGR layer over your TP layer. Now V first moves and adjoins to the T head. Then this complex V plus T head, this collective, the part which you can see as a square or a trapezium on your screen, this moves up and adjoins to the AGR head, and then we get the structure as it is there. Then there are languages of the world in which transitive verb shows object agreement also. And in these languages, the verb agrees with both direct object and subject. So sequences of verbal inflection found in them goes like verb, agreement with object, AGRO, tense, agreement with subject, AGRS. To account for this, we postulated two separate heads, AGRS, the head for subject agreement, and AGRO, the head for object agreement. And Chomsky said that AGRP exists both above VP and above TP, and he subscripted them with S or O, indicating whether it's subject or object agreement. So structure of a minimal clause with a transitive verb can be seen on your screen. When we look at it carefully, we see that little v head selects for big VP, AGRO head selects for little VP, tense head selects for AGROP, and AGRS head selects for TP. In this, we have first movement happening when big V moves and it joins to little v. Then this little v plus big V verbal element goes ahead and it joins to AGRO head. Then this three, big V, little v, and AGRO, this moves and it joins to T, and the final movement is this big thing moving and adjoining to AGRS head. The big structure seen on the previous screen is applicable only for a finite clause with a transitive verb. It's important to note that in non-finite clauses, we do not have subject-verb agreement, so there is no need for an AGR SP generated above TP. Also, if a verb is intransitive, then there is no object to agree it with, and hence we do not need an AGR OP layer above little vp in this. If our verb is intransitive, then we also don't have little vp layer. Let us talk about case checking in the spec head configuration now. We know that subject moves to spec TP to check its case by the nominative case feature of finite tense in spec head configuration. In early minimalism, Chomsky extends spec head configuration to include object's accusative case checking also. So the claim he made was that object moves to spec AGROP and the verb adjoins to AGRO head. So then we again get a spec head configuration, and here object's accusative case gets checked, verb's object agreement features get checked. The structure is on your screen. You can see that, let's go layer by layer. Little v selects for big VP, AGRO head selects for little VP layer. First of all, your big V moves and adjoins to little v, and we get the part indicated in square, little v and big V complex head. This then goes ahead and moves, adjoins to the AGRO head. We also have movement of the object from the complement position of big V to the specifier position of AGRO. How does case checking happen in this? Now we say that it is the little v which carries accusative case feature as a lexical property. When verbal elements adjoin to AGRO, this new complex head gets the accusative case feature in it. Object argument is generated with arbitrary case feature. In spec head configuration, that is, when object has moved to spec AGROP and little v plus big V has moved to AGRO, in this configuration, matching of features takes place. If object's case feature is accusative, then a successful matching takes place, and if matching fails, then the derivation would crash at LF. This makes sure that we don't get a wrong case on our direct object, because if our direct object does not have accusative feature, then it won't get matched and checked with the accusative feature of little v. Now that we have talked about case feature, let's talk about the other feature checking. Object argument has inherent, meaningful 5 features on it. Let me remind you, 5 feature was this term given to the set of person, number and gender features that are inherent to an NP. Now, object has inherent, meaningful 5 features on it. AGRO is generated with arbitrary, uninterpretable 5 features on it. In the spec head configuration that we have reached, if AGRO has the same features as the object TP, then the matching is successful. If 2 feature sets don't match, then the derivation crashes. This ensures that we have the correct object-verb agreement. Now that we have talked about feature checking, both case feature checking and the 5 feature checking, let us see the crossing movement of subject and object. You have the diagram on your screen. In this you see that subject moves to spec of AGRPS and object moves to spec AGROP. The two movements are crossing movements. Little v selects for big VP, AGRO selects for little VP, T selects for AGROP, and AGRS selects for TP. Your object moves from the complement position of big V to the specifier position of AGRO, and subject moves from specifier position of little vp to the specifier position of AGRSP. As you can see, these two movements cross each other. Why do they have to be crossing movements? Why couldn't it be the case that subject were to check its case in spec AGROP and object were to check its case in spec AGRSP? Then, as a result, we would be getting an agent argument marked with accusative case and a theme argument marked with nominative case. Chomsky in his 1992 paper gives some technical arguments as to why only crossing movement is the correct analysis, and In this module, we won't be going into the technical details of it, but it's sufficient to say that it is only the crossing movement analysis that follows through after we have seen this supporting data for it. Let us talk about the new organization of grammar. Government and binding theory had conceptualized grammar as an inverted Y model. You can see it on your screen. We had DS, SS, PF and LF. DS stood for D structure, SS stood for S structure, PF stood for phonological form or phonetic form, LF stood for logical form. D structure was the one which was input to meaning of the sentence, S structure was the one which was input to sound of the sentence, and move alpha, the one rule which was reduced form of all transformational rules applied in the portion between D structure and S structure. After S structure, the derivation split and sent one component to the phonological part for interpretation as sound, and one component was sent to the logical form for representation of the sentence as meaning. Now, after we have seen all these theories, it is easily seen that only PF and LF are virtual conceptual necessities. That is, a derivation must have interface with mechanisms that produce the sounds of language and with mechanisms that relate linguistic meaning to context or world knowledge. So, if we have to reformulate our grammar, we must keep PF and LF representative levels in fact. In previous module, we saw that D structure and S structure, they only have theoretical justifications that are keeping them alive. Minimalism got rid of D structure previously because when we were seeing our modules, we saw that there is no need of an unmodified state like D structure in which the structure was intact and only later on transformations applied to it, because in minimalism we saw that transformations apply in the course of building up a tree. Therefore, we don't have any requirement of an unmodified state at which no transformation applied. That was D structure and minimalism got rid of it. Now let us talk about S structure. So S structure was required in GB for the data that is on your screen. Arguments from GB for postulation of S structure needed data like A and B. John liked the pictures that he bought versus he liked the pictures that John bought. Note that John and he are co-indexed. That means they refer to the same person in the outside world. Sentence A is grammatical and is successfully meaning what the sentence wants to convey, but sentence B is ungrammatical when we reverse the order of John and he. Now sentence B is ungrammatical because it violates principle C of binding theory. If you remember, principle C of binding theory stated that an R expression must be free everywhere. In sentence B here, our R expression John has a C commanding antecedent in the sentence. The antecedent I am talking about is he. Therefore, R gets bound in this sentence, which is not possible. Hence, the sentence becomes ungrammatical. Now, when we apply WH movement to the object argument in this sentence, we get a sentence like C. Which pictures that John bought did he like? In this case, notice again that John and he are co-indexed. Now, which pictures that John bought did he like is a good sentence. So this leads us to a question: at what level does principle C apply? Clearly, it can't be D structure, because the D structure for this question would be a statement like sentence D. He liked which pictures that John bought. As can be seen, at D structure, he as an antecedent is again C commanding the co-indexed R expression John, and hence is a violation of binding theory. Thus, binding theory cannot apply a D structure if the surface structure of this form is grammatical. At D structure, it can't apply. Thus, principle C must apply. The only other two options left are either S structure or LF. Now argument was provided for why principle C cannot apply at LF, and this argument was then extrapolated to say that hence principle C must apply at S structure, and because of this S structure was necessary. See the sentence on your screen. Which woman said that he liked which pictures that John bought? There are two WH phrases in this sentence, and we can move only one WH phrase into the composition, and logically it follows that the higher WH phrase is the one which is going to move into the matrix comp. Thus, which woman is the one which raises into the higher composition to give us this sentence. Which woman said that he liked which pictures that John bought. Now at LF, all WH phrases should move into the interrogative comp. So structure at LF would be different for this sentence, where both the WH phrases have moved up. Look at the structure on your screen. Which pictures that John bought, which woman said that he liked. When we see the co-indexes and the traces left behind, we see that first of all John is co-indexed with he. John has moved higher up in this sentence and hence is not C commanded or is not C commanded by he. Second, the trace of which woman has risen from the subject position of the verb say, and the object which pictures that John bought. This full WH phrase has moved from the trace position in the object position of the verb say. So we get which pictures that John bought, WH object phrase, which woman, WH subject phrase, and then the IP. In this, he does not C command John, so if principle C had to apply at LF, this sentence should be fine. But in reality, this sentence is ungrammatical. Therefore, principle C must apply at S structure and not at LF. Now, this was the reasoning given why S structure is necessarily required in our derivation. Chomsky, in his way, found a way around this problem. He tweaked the system by saying that LF movement of a WH element actually only moves the minimal WH word. It does not pipe the larger phrase that contains the WH word. So the actual LF representation of previous sentence was not the one which we saw previously, but the one which is now on your screen, in which we have the order which woman said that he liked pictures that John bought. We start from co-indexes. He is now co-indexed with John. He is co-indexed with John and is higher up, so it is C commanding RR expression. Our subject WH, which woman, has risen from the subject position of the verb say and gone higher up in the comp. Our object WH phrase, instead of the full WH phrase now, only the WH word which has risen from that phrase, the position before pictures, and gotten into the composition of the matrix clause. This is the way you interpret this sentence, and this would correctly tell you now that he is C commanding John here. So if principle C were to apply at LF, this would give us the correct result. That is, this sentence is violating principle C and hence the S structure is ungrammatical. Thus, if principle C can apply at LF, the previous reasoning which stated that SS structure was needed because principle C cannot apply at LF, this vanishes. Thus, now there is no need of an S structure. Now, after seeing all this data, we come to the minimalist model of organization of grammar. The organization is in front of you, where you have lexicon, spell out, PF and LF. Computation takes word from lexicon and it starts the derivation. At some point, phonological part of the structure is sent to the PF component for interpretation of, let's say, stress, intonation, etc. Derivation then continues to move on with the meaning part of the structure, and this derivation continues till it reaches the LF component. The point of split between phonology and LF is called spell out. So languages vary as to where they fix the spell out point. It could be before or after for WH movement, and respectively these are WH in situ languages versus WH movement languages. So languages in which WH movement happens before spell out, then those are languages like English where we see WH movement happening overtly, versus languages in which WH movement happens after spell out. WH movement happens in covert part of the language, and we see languages like Hindi etc. which are WH in situ languages. This can clearly show us that yes, we are right on our path to formulate the model of grammar in this way. Thank you.